I have a bomb. Have you ever gotten so angry that when you try to string together a series of words for some sort of cogent threat, the words get all jumbled up and make no sense instead? No, Kevin. What? I do something. This camera's not right. I've had the builders in. Hang on. There we go. That's the ticket. That's a bit better, right? That's a bit better. That's a bit better. Look how nice and central. You're welcome if you've ever said. So I can't string together sentences when I'm not angry. When I'm angry, it just comes out as a series of fucks. Like yesterday, we're working on a new little project for the Warfronts channel that I do. We're starting like a weekly newsletter. Holy fucking shit. What? I'm trying to get fiber internet. It's an endless saga. There's so much stuff going on in my life. I was talking about builders and fiber internet and getting angry. Oh, and the newsletter. I was making this newsletter and I'm like trying to put it together and it's like, you need to authenticate your email address. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? It's like, just update the C name reference. And I'm like, oh, just the C name. What the fuck is that? I had no idea. And then they're like, we rejected your application to do a newsletter. You didn't provide enough information. And it's like, I linked my YouTube channel. Can't you just click on the link? I'm not some sort of scammer looking to spam people. It's got 1 million subscribers. Just look at it. Oh my God. And then I originally used something called Kit. I think it was, apparently it was ConvertKit before, and now it's just Kit, which is a banging domain, by the way. They have kit.com. I have no idea how much they paid for that, but you can bet it was a lot. It's so shit, in my opinion. It's just impossible to use. So I switched to something called MailerLite because it was at the top of Google. Probably because they paid to be there. But it's dope. It's way better. I have no idea how much it costs because the pricing is very opaque. And I imagine that it's good because when I click on it, they're going to be like, oh, you want to send an email? $1,000, please. It's going to be some shit like that. But so far, so good. And I was making it and I was just fucking cursing and blinding because it was so hard and it kept losing all my work. ConvertKit, that is. Fuck them. Amateurs. Kevin writes this. I read it. Sort of. Mostly I just rant about shit. Welcome to the channel. Today's episode brought to you by the good people over at Vessi who have asked me today to talk about their Stormburst high top and also the Stormburst low top. Look, spring is just around the corner. It's getting, winter's fine, at least where I live. I don't live in the UK anymore where it just rains all the time. But here, winter, where I live in Prague, it's most of the time not too rainy. But then spring comes around and it's like everything turns to mud and puddles. And you're getting wet all the time. I just use I don't even wear a waterproof jacket that much. Actually, Vessi sent me I can't remember what was their jacket called, which is nice and also waterproof. But most of the time, I just like using an umbrella. Got to be honest with you. But umbrella doesn't protect your feet, and Vessi does. They're made of a material called Dymatex, which makes them 100% waterproof. So, I mean, combine that with their jacket. Combine it with a Overcast. The jacket is called Overcast. Combine it with the jacket, get the shoes, get an umbrella, whatever, and you'll be good to go. Whatever the weather throws at you. It's waterproof, it's fantastic. There's also the weekend pair. For some reason, I chose all black shoes, even though most of the ones that I've been wearing lately are actually white. I've got the white high top Stormburst, I got the white weekends, and yeah, I love them. I wear them all the time. It's the only shoe I've worn for like the last 3 or 4 years, or however long it is since Vessi have been sponsoring me. It's the best shoe you'll ever buy. I don't know what else to say about them other than just go buy yourself a pair and you won't regret it. Ooh, I do know what to say. I don't talk about this enough, but when you first get your Vessis, you put them on and you're like, oh, it feels a little tight. Did I get the wrong size? No. You put them on, just wear them for like a day and they form to your feet. And then from that moment on, they somehow magically stay formed to your feet. And I guess because your feet don't really change size, but it's super comfortable. So get Vessi's Stormburst. Go to vessi.com/blaze. You get 15% off your first pair at checkout. There's a link below. That's it. Back to the video. Something like if this guy doesn't stop tailgating me, I'm going to bust a testy in his arse. What the fuck does that mean? Bust a testy in his arse. It sounds like you're gonna make love to him, Kevin. You're gonna bust a something in his arse. Now, Not that I know anyone who angrily yelled that exact sentence at the age of 16, in a car full of other teenagers who spent the rest of the ride not so silently judging him. This was a purely hypothetical example. I'm so lost. Anyway, Florida Man absolutely has done this, except when Florida Man makes seemingly nonsensical threats like, I'm going to kill you because of hip-hop and spaghetti. It is entirely intentional. So let's celebrate this. Oh, it doesn't make sense because Kevin said it didn't. Oh my God, what is wrong with me today? I'm all over the show. I can't even put together coherent thoughts, let alone a coherent sentence. I said that already, good Lord. But Kevin said it's not going to make sense. I blathered the on about something for so long that I forgot that what Kevin was going to say wasn't going to make sense. This episode's not making sense. Let's try and reset and get back to something tolerable, shall we? So let's celebrate this Florida Man Friday by looking at some bizarre threats made by Florida Man. Florida Man threatens to unleash Turtle Army. Whenever someone introduces a new person to you by their nickname instead of their real name, chances are that person is either really cool or a badass. If someone said to you, I'd like you to meet my friend D-Rad, Bloody Knuckles, and the Twink, you would... I'll be like, oh man, D-Rad and Bloody Knuckles sound scary, but the Twink, all I think of is 17-year-old Justin Bieber.
You what?
I mean, Justin Bieber today is ripped, right? So Justin Bieber today, I'd be like, it's kind of scary. But like Justin Bieber back in the day, he was a twink, right? That's what a twink means. I don't even know what twink means, but I know it's this, right? I'm sorry, we're going to get back to something more tolerable, which is not Justin Bieber. You would certainly know that some of you were in for a rough time that night, though what kind of time may not be entirely clear. When a person introduces themselves by their own self-approved nickname, however, chances are that that person is batshit insane. Such was the case with 61-year-old Florida man Thomas Lane, who referred to himself exclusively as the Saint. That's f***ed up. Although, for the longest time, I have wanted a cool nickname. Everyone just calls me Whistler or Simon. I'd like to be known as Dubs. I was watching Snowpiercer. You guys seen Snowpiercer? And the villain of the show is called Wilford, but people call him Dubs. And I'm like, that's sick. My surname begins with a W. I should be known as Dubs. In April of 2019, police in Indialantic, that's a real place, Indialantic, you're just making up names. Received a number of phone calls about a man disturbing the peace. He'd been seen at Starbucks, Surfinista Cafe, and Sassy Granny Smoothies. Surely not a real place, even in Florida. Shouting and... I'm not just checking my emails. I'm looking up Sassy Granny's...
Nasty, dude.
Smoothies. Okay. No results found on Google Maps. I searched the whole world and it didn't come up. So... Oh, no, it is a real place. It's actually just called Sassy Granny's Juice Bar and Smoothies. It's 4.7, 37 reviews. This looks pretty good. I'd have it except smoothies are just filled with sugar and calories and things that I'm not supposed to eat. If I'm having something bad for me, I'll have a beer, thank you very much. Not something that's labelled as kale spinach smoothie, which you know just mostly contains apple juice and loads of sugar. Just have a f***ing beer like a normal person. Don't pretend you're being healthy. You're not. Just have a Diet Coke and a vitamin pill. Boom! According to witnesses, Thomas said that his army of turtles was going to destroy everyone and everything, and they would all see it happen within the hour. Given the speed at which turtles move and the fact that there was not a turtle in sight, this was seen as an empty but annoying threat. Then again, even if he did have turtles with him, I find it highly doubtful that he would unleash pain and suffering upon all the residents of Florida with them. I'm not a herpetologist though, so what do I know? Officers came and escorted Thomas to the police station, where he proceeded to bang on the walls and glass, shouting threats at the dispatcher who had sent officers to his location. He was then allowed to leave without any charges being filed, which seems weird, but I mean, whatever, I guess. I guess they just wanted to move the crazy person away from everybody else, indeed. After leaving the station, Thomas drove down to 7-Eleven to yell at more people. He also decided to call 911 so that he could speak to the dispatch officer again to tell them that they needed to leave now or they would all be sorry that they fucked with the Saint.
This kind of behavior is never tolerated in Boracua.
When police came to the 7-Eleven to see Thomas again, he refused to leave his car, shouting more threats about his turtle army destroying them all. He just sounds mad. Like he just needs to be kept somewhere with padded walls. Like, because apparently we're loving TV shows today. You guys ever watched Smallville back in the day? It's like, you know, when Lionel Luthor puts Lex Luthor, his son, in the white padded room, and Johnny Cash's Hurt begins to play. That was dope, dude. I love that show. I'm sure I'll watch it today and I'll be like, this is pretty bad compared to TV that we get today. But back in the day, I was like, this is the best thing ever. This is awesome. He was forcefully removed from his car, arrested for disturbing the peace, resisting arrest without violence, and misuse of 911. He was then booked into Brevard County Jail, though it appears the charges were eventually dropped. And since every time I mention Brevard County, all the Florida men and women in the comments get angry about your pronunciation, allow me to try and help you. I'm sorry. I don't care. I don't know how to write using these funky phonetic symbols, but just say Brevard like you're a posh British twat, and it should come out close enough. Brevard. 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 Is it Brevard? It's not Brevard, is it? Brevard. It should be Brevard. Brevard. Florida man thinks bomb threats are sexy. Florida man is bang on, pun intended. There are two things everyone knows you should never say in an airport. The first is, I'd like a one-way ticket to New Jersey, please.
Are you delusional?
Well, that's probably the more important of the two statements to avoid. At least the only person you're hurting by saying that is yourself. But the other thing you should absolutely never say in an airport is the word bomb, especially in the context of you claiming to have one. I have a bomb!
FBI, open up!
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't clip that. Don't use that. Some men will do anything for love, though, or at least a very hot piece of ass. In this case, it was 70-year-old Florida man, Alan Berinsky. Chasing that ass, is he? Old Alster. He was sitting at a gate in Fort Lauderdale Airport waiting for his flight to board when he saw another passenger on his flight who he found rather attractive. Not wanting to pass up an opportunity to make the next hour waiting for the plane to board completely uncomfortable for her, Alan decided to shoot his shot. He casually leaned over and told the woman, "If the bomb in my bag goes off prematurely, I apologize to your family in advance." Dude, that is a psycho thing to say. I know he's just joking and he's old, but it's like, dude, you just don't say that on a plane. You just don't. I'm sure Alan's pickup line worked on the girl, and it was undoubtedly like the Colorado River between her legs after hearing that. but for other witnesses who didn't feel the full effects of Alan's charm offensive, this comment was a bit concerning. The witnesses reported the statement to the Broward County Broad County Sheriff's Office, and Alan was promptly arrested and charged with making a false bomb report. He pleaded not guilty on the basis that he was just flirting and trying to be funny, even though he knew what he said was wrong. And apparently that explanation was good enough because the charges were dropped. I mean, yes, he's an idiot, but he didn't intend any harm. He's just an idiot. That said, I'm a bit confused about his comment, though. I was like, wait, is this the guy called the Saint? And I'm like, no, that was the guy from the previous century. Why is my brain not working? Alan wanted to apologize to the girl's family in the event that his bomb went off early and killed them, but if it went off as intended and killed everybody on the plane, then he didn't want to apologize? He didn't think about it because it's a joke. I realized that this was a guy who thought bomb threats were a great way to pick up a woman, so he's clearly an idiot, but the logical inconsistency still bothers me. He didn't think about logical inconsistencies. He's just making a stupid joke. Really stupid joke. Florida man threatens Waffle House with finger guns. This is not the first Florida man story we've had where someone went into a restaurant and threatened to shoot people with finger guns, but this is even crazier than the last time. It was about 8 p.m. on October the 21st, 2021, when Florida man Eward, not a typo, Rodriguez, walked into the Waffle House in Madison, Florida. He was wearing dark clothes, a hoodie, and a hat, and had a little dog with him for some reason. By Waffle House standards, this wouldn't have been remotely noteworthy until Edward yelled at everyone to get on the f***ing ground because they were being robbed. He then brandished his dual-wielded finger guns to make sure that everybody knew that he meant business. Once everybody was on the ground, it was time for Edward to take what he had come for. You might have assumed he was going to empty the cash register or at least would have stolen some food, but you'd be wrong. Instead, he let everybody know that he was high and drunk, grabbed a stack of napkins, and walked out of the door. He then hopped in his car and drove away. A perfectly safe thing to do after admitting to being intoxicated. He's not high, he's high and drunk. I went to Germany the other day.
肩に力を伝えて
Germany's legalized weed. Like, for residents, you can't just go there and buy it and then come back or whatever. Not that I would ever do that. But there was I completely forgot about this, and I'm just driving along the highway, and it's like, don't drive high in English. And I'm like, wait, what? What do you mean? I'm like, oh, it's legal here. I was like, that's a nice reminder. Good for you, Germany. Also, I feel like he probably could have let his dog stay in the car for such a short stop. Witnesses called 911 and deputies were able to identify Edward, who already had a criminal record. Surprise! They went to his house, where Edward freely admitted having gone to the Waffle House to get some napkins, and also having threatened to rob the place in order to get those napkins. He was arrested and charged with unarmed robbery and assault, though this was later bumped down to disturbing the peace. Yeah, that feels right. Like, you don't want to be too harsh on him. He was high and drunk, and he's an idiot. He just went in for some napkins and thought he was being funny, and he's not. Like, he obviously deserves some punishment, unlike the bomb guy, who was just being dumb. This guy genuinely scared people. Bomb guy, people were like, he doesn't know a bomb. He's a 70-year-old idiot. Be like my dad. It's like my dad's age. Edward received 6 months probation. I'd say that's fair. As a quick bit of absolutely not legal advice, though, you can probably just take the napkins without making a big show of it. Obviously, stealing is wrong and you shouldn't do it, but if you ever find yourself in dire straits and that you'd need to consider stealing napkins, you just walk into places like McDonald's or presumably Waffle House and just take as many as you want. I don't think I've ever been in straits this dire, but I did at university. I just didn't want to, every toilet on campus just had giant rolls of toilet paper in it, just stacked up. And I was like, why pay for toilet paper when I can allegedly steal it?
You're stealing.
The employees don't get paid nearly enough to give a shit. Florida man threatens neighbors with nunchucks. Is there any weapon more deadly than the nunchucks? I mean, yeah, they're really difficult to use. I think you're much more likely to hurt yourself. There's also guns exist. Yes, basically every weapon ever. Well, Kevin and I, unsurprisingly, on the same page on this one. I'm pretty sure just hitting someone on the head with a rock is more effective than spending years trying to master the world's most awkward flail. While there are records of nunchucks being effectively used in combat that date back 1,000 years, in reality, the person you're most likely to injure with them is yourself. And once again, Kevin and I, same page. That's what 61-year-old Florida man Larry Adams discovered after his neighbors were making too much damn noise. It was late Monday night in August 2019, and a car in the parking lot of Larry's Daytona Beach apartment building was making an inappropriate amount of noise for how late it was. He decided to take matters into his own hands, grabbing his nunchucks and a bottle of insect spray to go and threaten the rowdy youths with. I mean, yeah, he's living the dream, though. This is like when someone's just... It's like when some asshole's using their horn at night in a city. You're like, fuck you, man. Fuck you. Larry tried to scare the people in the car by showing off his sick nunchuck skills, and it went pretty much exactly the way you would expect. While whipping his nunchucks around and possibly yelling, "Cowabunga, dude!" Larry inadvertently struck the car, causing the nunchucks to bounce back in his face and cut open his forehead. Dude, they're nunchucks. Don't use Just grab a fucking bat like a normal American. The baseball bat, I mean. Undeterred, he then emptied his entire can of bug spray onto the passengers of the car and also threatened to come back with a gun and shoot them. One of the passengers, a neighbor of his named Sissy Sylvester, that's a kind of sick name, to be honest, found it hysterical that Larry had hit himself with the nunchucks, rightfully so, though she was confused as to why he'd used the insect spray on them, as they were not cockroaches. Larry and the passengers of the car wound up calling the police on one another, though the police were not sympathetic to Larry's desire for peace and quiet. When searching his home, police found the nunchucks, empty bottle of bug spray, and a loaded semi-automatic handgun magazine. Oh, wait, I'm like, semi-automatic's just a regular gun, right? Not like a It doesn't sound like they actually found a gun, though, so it looks like his threats of shooting his neighbors would be as effective as his threats of death by nunchuck. Although, dude, if you've got, like, a magazine with rounds in it, you have the gun somewhere, right? You're just keeping them separate because you're a responsible gun owner. He was arrested and charged with assault with a deadly weapon, though he made some sort of plea deal that got the charges dropped. That's not a plea deal then, is it? And got the charges dropped? Like no charges? Plea deal means you get like a reduction in charges, no? Larry had been arrested and charged with assault twice since then, but he still seems to have avoided actually being convicted of anything. Florida man threatens to help Satan shoot down police helicopter. In 2018, then 54-year-old Florida man Robert Money was arrested for making threats against the Volusia County Sheriff's Department. He lived near the hangar where the department kept their helicopter, and he had been making frequent threats towards the department about shooting down their helicopter with guns or laser beams. Naturally, Robert said that he would take them out by any means necessary. The threat of shooting down a helicopter with a laser, it's already pretty bizarre, but this story got a whole lot weirder. Initially, Robert's claim was that the helicopter was routinely flying low over his house, causing concussion-like symptoms. Bro, I mean, helicopters are loud, I've stood next to helicopters. They're it's fucking windy. It's fucking loud. But you're not getting a concussion, especially if you're inside and the helicopter is flying above you. As he elaborated his case, however, something he was able to do at great length since he chose to represent himself, he revealed that he was actually the target of a conspiracy involving the sheriff's office, the FBI, and drug traffickers, who included the former sheriff. Either he's uncovered a hell of a conspiracy, or it's just a conspiracy theory. Gonna guess it's the latter, and maybe he smokes meth? Allegedly, maybe. Under Florida's red flag laws, all of Robert's guns were taken away from him. For 12 whole months, the judge also urged him to seek mental health treatment, though she did not order him to do so. It's a good thing that the US government is doing absolutely everything possible to keep their citizens safe and ensure that their guns don't fall into the hands of anyone dangerous or unstable. Well, they did take away all of his guns. I don't know if Kevin's being sarcastic or not. He does seem responsible to take away all of the guns. Unsurprisingly, that was not the end of the story, though. What followed was years of Robert stalking police and skulking around near the hangar. Bro, Judge, you gotta be like, mandatory mental health assessment. We call it sectioning. That motherfucker needs to be sectioned. He usually kept his distance, merely being a nuisance and holding up a large sign that referred to the new Volusia County Sheriff as a sinner. Things escalated in October of 2023, however, when Robert stopped staying entirely in the background. He'd made vulgar statements directly to the crew of the hangar before, but they were generally seen as rude and annoying rather than a credible threat. This time, however, he told them, "The devil is going to kill you, and I am going to help." That does sound like a death threat, doesn't it? I'd have thought the years of stalking would have already been concerning, but now that there were actual threats being made, the crew finally felt the need to get the sheriff's office involved. A few of the crew members were afraid that Robert was going to stalk them to their houses and attack or kill them, since that's literally what he said he was going to do. Him and his BFF Satan. As a side note, Robert insisted that these people were sinners and bad people, yet he's the one that also claimed to be in league with the devil, and also committing crimes and shit. I've always said that we can't understand the thought process of crazy people, but it's just so bizarre and nonsensical to me. Anyway, Robert was arrested and charged with felony aggravated stalking. This was then bumped down to misdemeanor stalking and disorderly conduct before finally being dismissed entirely. Wait, this is the first guy in the episode who needs to have some sort of punishment or mental health situation going on, because he's clearly dangerous, potentially, and not well. That's probably fine, though. I mean, it's just a guy who is known to have guns, has threatened to murder people associated with law enforcement, and is clearly insane. Exactly! I'm sure that we could trust his buddy Lucifer would keep him from doing anything too outrageous. Florida man threatens man over toilet etiquette. Alright, for this story, it's not the threat itself that was strange, but why the threat was necessary. I don't know if Simon would have heard this before, but here in the US, we have an old saying: if it's yellow, let it mellow; if it's brown, flush it down. Yeah, I've got American family, and they live in Georgia, which is close to Florida, right? And there was some drought going on one time I visited, and they were like, yeah, if you take a shit, flush it down. If you piss, just leave it there. And I think they used this phrase. It was the first time I'd heard it. As far as I can tell, this phrase originates from times of severe drought. Since then, it has remained a popular and catchy rhyme among conservationists and those who are desperate to save money on their water bill. And it's not like it's a bad policy either. Oh, we don't have this in the UK. You know why? I'm not sure if this is still the case, but when I was a kid, water wasn't something you paid. I mean, you paid for it, but there was like a water bill. You didn't have a meter. So there'd be no water measurement. And when I first came to live in Prague, I was like, my girlfriend, now wife, was like, why do you just leave the shower running for ages before you get into it? And it's like, yeah, I like the room to be like nice and steamy. And she's like, but water's quite expensive. We're like, what are you talking about? How expensive could water be? It's basically free. And then we got a water bill at the end of the year, and I was like, oh shit, okay, I'm gonna stop doing that. And now I've started doing it again because I don't know, I can handle the expensive water bill and I like it to be steamy when I take a shower. Don't judge me. I know it's bad for the environment and all of this shit, but I like it to be steamy.
How dare you?
And it's not like it's a bad policy either. The entire reason urinals exist is because, or as Americans say them, urinals. Wait, urinals? Urinals. Urinals. Wait, what the fuck one is British? Yeah, I need to have a piss in the urinal. Urinal's British, right? Oh my God, I've lived abroad for too long. Someone told me the other day, I was checking into a hotel, and they were like, and where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from the UK. And they're like, oh, you don't sound like it. And I'm like, I've lived abroad for too long. I interact with too many Americans. The entire reason urinals The entire reason urinals exist is because of how inefficient and costly it is to flush a toilet every time someone takes a leak. I did want to put a urinal in my house. My wife said no. Not in like the main toilet, just like in the toilet by my office. There's like there's a downstairs and I have my office down. There's a little toilet next to it. Could we just put a urinal in here? And she's like, no. Like, but no one else is ever going to use this toilet. And she's like, no, it's weird to have a urinal in the house. And I'm like, yeah, weird, but cool. We don't have a urinal. She's in charge. When it comes to solid waste, though, nearly everyone will agree that you need to flush that shit immediately. Failure to do so risks enraging 46-year-old man Keith Mounts. What does he mount? He was in the home of an unnamed victim who I imagine was his roommate, because I'm not sure how the hell any of this would have gone down. Anyway, Keith went into the bathroom to discover that the other man hadn't flushed the toilet, so he did the only sensible thing. He grabbed his machete and confronted the victim in the yard, threatening to chop him up if he did not flush the toilet. I realize that probably sounded sarcastic, but honestly, this feels like a sensible response to the situation. While this isn't going to help dispel the slanderous rumors Simon started about me being both a Florida man and a criminal, when I was in Miami. Where is Miami, Kevin? Tell me. Where is Miami? I'm just double checking it. It's in Florida, right? Miami, Florida. Yes, definitely. I had a roommate who would frequently take a dump without flushing the toilet. If given the opportunity, I absolutely would have threatened him with a giant knife. Well, just go to Walmart and buy a giant knife. I once went to America and I went to Walmart and I was just a mate. I was just browsing and it's like, oh, you could buy a machete for $3. This was back in the day. It was like 20 years ago. It's like, you can buy a machete for $3. So I bought that machete and I put it in my rental car. And then I didn't really know what to do with it. I just had this machete. So I was like, you can't buy machetes in the UK. I was like, holy shit, that's cool. $3? I'll have that. And I didn't know what to do with it. I had to get rid of this machete. So just returning the rental car, I just hid it under the spare tire. So at some point, someone got my rental car and there was a machete in there. I absolutely would have threatened him with a giant knife. Unfortunately, I would never notice this happened until it already left for class, and by the time I finally saw him, like 14 hours later, my seething rage had subsided. My other roommate and I did finally confront him and resolve the issue with extreme prejudice, allegedly. But long story short, I'm kind of on Keith's side here. Flush the damn toilet, you disgusting animals. Third time today, me and Kevin, same page. The police did not share my point of view, however, they arrived after the victim called 911 and deputies found a machete in the yard where the argument had taken place. Keith claimed that he had only grabbed the weapon in self-defense of what? Although, when asked to explain exactly what he needed to defend himself from, he wasn't able to provide an answer. He's just heard that you could just say self-defense. It's like, I was defending myself. The police, and he's like, that will get you off. The police's next question is always going to be, from what, mate? Keith was arrested and charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon without intent to kill, but the charges were later dropped because if there's anything to be learned from today's episode, it's that merely threatening murder, bombs, or global devastation via turtles is not enough to get convicted in the state of Florida. Despite what some people might incorrectly feel was a gross overreaction to the fecal predicament, however, Keith wasn't just some humorless dick. In his official written statement to investigators, he simply wrote, "Shit happens." And that's the end of today's episode. It was a mess, but thank you for sticking with it. It's probably about 4 of you still watching. Thank you, I like you. All 4 of you, including you, Peter. All I think of is like, 17-year-old Justin Bieber